Have you ever sat across from someone on a first date and wondered, am I too old for this? Maybe you smiled politely, nodded at all the right times, but deep down you were thinking, do I even have the energy for this anymore? If that sounds familiar, let me tell you something. You are not alone. Dating after 60 can feel like walking into a room where the rules have changed, the music is different, and you're not sure if you even like the dance anymore. But here's the good news. You're still in the room. And that means something. It means you still want connection, companionship, maybe even love. And that desire, it's valid, it's beautiful, it's human. But, and this is where it gets tricky, dating after 60 isn't the fairy tale we thought it would be when we were younger. It comes with its own set of truths, and not all of them are easy to hear. Some of them might sting a little. But these truths, once we see them clearly, can actually set us free. They help us stop wasting time, stop doubting ourselves, and start building something real, on our own terms. So let's talk, just you and me. Let's start peeling back the curtain on what it really means to date after 60. And let's begin with one of the hardest truths of all. Dating after 60 takes more stamina than you might expect. You'd think by now, we'd be coasting. We've lived through marriages, careers, kids, breakups, maybe even losses. And yet, here we are, back in the arena. And guess what? It's exhausting sometimes. Not just the getting dressed up or figuring out which picture to post online. It's the emotional stamina, the resilience, the willingness to keep showing up when sometimes all you want to do is curl up on the couch with a hot cup of tea and your favorite book. It takes energy to meet someone new, to ask the same questions again, to share parts of your story, to hear theirs, and to navigate the roller coaster of, will they call back? Or did I say too much? And when you've already lived through heartache or disappointment, opening yourself up again, well, that's not just brave. That's courageous in the deepest sense of the word. But here's the secret no one tells you. It's okay to feel tired. It's okay to take breaks. And it's more than okay to be selective about where you spend your energy. Dating at this stage isn't about chasing butterflies or proving yourself. It's about quality, connection, kindness. And that only happens when you take care of your own emotional reserves first. Now, let's go a bit deeper. There's another truth that makes people shift in their seats. One that often goes unspoken because, well, it's a little awkward. But it's important, especially now. And that's the truth about intimacy. Yes, I said it. Physical intimacy. Sex. Touch. That spark that reminds you you're not just someone's parent or grandparent or neighbor, but someone who still desires and deserves connection on a physical level. It might feel taboo to talk about, but after 60, intimacy doesn't suddenly disappear. In fact, for many people, it becomes more meaningful, slower, richer, less about performance and more about presence. But here's the part that's hard. Not everyone you meet will feel the same way. Some may have moved past that part of their life. Some may not be able to engage physically, and others might be too embarrassed to even talk about it. That's why it's so important to have the conversation early, honestly, and gently. Not in a confrontational way, but with curiosity. You might say something like, I've found that intimacy is still an important part of life for me. Is that something you still value? And if the answer is no, it's not a rejection, it's clarity. It saves you both time and confusion. The biggest mistake is assuming that everyone feels the same way you do, or worse, ignoring your own needs, because you're afraid of making someone uncomfortable. Your needs matter, your desires matter, and the sooner you can talk about them with someone, the sooner you'll know whether you're walking the same path, or just standing at the same intersection for a moment. Of course, that brings us to another hard truth: expectations. They can be tricky little things. And when it comes to dating, they can make or break your experience. You see, many of us enter a new connection carrying invisible luggage, past hurts, past hopes, ideas about what love should look like. We imagine fireworks, instant chemistry, long walks under the moonlight, but real relationships, especially after 60, don't always look like that. Sometimes they start slowly, awkwardly. Sometimes there's no spark, just a quiet comfort that grows over time. So it's important to let go of the fantasy just enough to stay open to reality. That doesn't mean lowering your standards. It means being present, paying attention, listening to what's real instead of chasing what's ideal. You might meet someone who doesn't sweep you off your feet, but shows up when they say they will, who doesn't send flowers, but brings you soup when you're sick, who doesn't talk like a poet, but listens like a friend. That's love too. That's worth noticing. And when you release yourself from the pressure of perfect, you make space for something better. Something that feels like home, even if it doesn't look like a romance movie from the 70s. Dating after 60 isn't about reliving your youth. It's about writing a new chapter with the wisdom you've earned and the courage to do it your way. You've come too far to settle and you've grown too much to pretend. And maybe, just maybe, it's not about finding someone who completes you. You're already whole. It's about finding someone who respects that wholeness, adds to your joy, and gives you the peace of knowing that being together simply feels right. Let's keep going. There are more truths to uncover, and the next one might surprise you. Sometimes we don't realize how much strength we've built until we're faced with something as tender as dating. And one of the quietest challenges, one people rarely talk about, is how deeply independence can get in the way of intimacy. It's a strange thing to say out loud, isn't it? After all, we've earned our independence. We've raised families, managed homes, built careers, learned to rely on ourselves, often after years of having to. That independence is part of what makes us strong. But when you've been self-sufficient for so long, letting someone in, even just a little, can feel like losing control. For many women especially, the thought of needing a man again can trigger an inner rebellion. We think, I've made it this far on my own. Why would I open the door to someone who might complicate things? And for men, it can be just as hard, feeling like they're no longer needed the way they once were, that they don't have a role, that they might be more tolerated than treasured. This is where humility meets vulnerability. Because love, real love, doesn't demand that we give up who we are, but it does ask us to soften a little, to let someone help, to let them open the jar, or carry the groceries, or make the decision about where to eat once in a while. Not because we can't, but because we're learning to share again. That's not weakness. That's wisdom. Knowing that life feels richer when it's not all on your shoulders. But even when you start to let your guard down, there's another little gremlin that can creep in, criticism, and it shows up quietly. You might not even notice it at first. A little comment about the way he parks the car, a suggestion on how she should dress for dinner. A remark about their hobbies, their habits, their way of doing things. And before you know it, what started as excitement turns into discomfort. The air gets heavy. The ease disappears. This is one of the hardest truths to face. At our age, people aren't looking to be fixed. They want to be accepted. You don't have to love everything about the other person. But if you feel the need to constantly correct, critique, or compare, it's time to ask yourself why. Is it really about them? Or is it your own fear or frustration bubbling up in a way that pushes love away? One man once said, "I don't need her to agree with everything I say, but I need to feel like I can be myself around her without being judged." That stuck with me. Because so many people, men and women, feel like they have to shrink themselves to avoid being criticized. And when that happens, the relationship starts to die a little at a time. Instead of judgment, try curiosity. Instead of control, try collaboration. You'd be amazed how much warmer a connection feels when you trade criticism for compassion. And now, we arrive at a truth that's both deeply emotional and surprisingly practical. The fantasy of the perfect partner is one of the biggest barriers to finding real love. You know the image: tall, charming, witty, or graceful, elegant, always saying the right thing. They never interrupt. They love the same books. They cook exactly how you like. They remember birthdays without reminders. They understand you without words. And if that person exists, I hope they're also riding a unicorn through a rainbow, because they're probably made of the same stuff: fantasy. We carry around these ideas of perfection, sometimes without even realizing it, and we hold every potential partner up to that measuring stick. But the truth is, you don't need someone perfect. You need someone real. Someone who might not always say the perfect thing, but who's willing to listen when you speak. Someone who has their own quirks and flaws, just like you, but still shows up, still tries, still wants to share a meal, a walk, a laugh at the end of a long day. Real love, especially at this stage in life, is quieter than the fairy tales made it seem. It's not dramatic, it's not flawless, but it is deeply comforting, and it can feel like peace, not fireworks. So take a breath. Give yourself permission to set the fantasy down. It's heavy anyway, isn't it? And in doing that, you make space for something more grounded, something more human, something far more lasting. And here's a little piece of advice that may surprise you. Not every date needs to lead to romance. In fact, some of the most rewarding relationships you'll form now might be friendships. Companionship, a shared interest, a dinner buddy, someone to text when the news gets overwhelming, or to laugh with about the strange little details of growing older. Opening your heart doesn't mean every connection has to be the one. It means you're staying alive to possibility. And sometimes, just having that sense of connection, without pressure, without performance, is enough to keep the heart beating a little fuller. This stage of life isn't about proving anything. It's about enjoying who you've become, and maybe letting someone witness that alongside you. There's real beauty in that. And yes, there's still more to uncover. Because just when you think you've figured it all out, love reminds you, there's always another lesson waiting around the corner. There's a certain kind of courage it takes to be hopeful at this stage in life. And when it comes to dating, that courage is often hidden behind small, quiet moments. Agreeing to meet someone new, being honest about what you want, or simply showing up again after a heartbreak you didn't expect. And here's one of the hardest truths of all. Many people our age are still carrying pain they never fully healed from. The divorce that blindsided them. The love that slowly faded. The spouse they lost to illness. The relationship that never got closure. That pain doesn't vanish with time. We just learn to live around it. But when we date again, that pain can resurface. Sometimes it whispers doubts. Sometimes it shouts fears. And sometimes it shows up as silence, when all we want to do is open up. This is why grace matters. Giving grace to others and to yourself. Not everyone is going to show up fully healed. In fact, very few people do. But if someone shows up with honesty, with kindness, and with a willingness to grow, that's something. That's rare. That's worth leaning into, even if it's not perfect. You don't need to fix anyone, and you don't need to be fixed. But you do need to be gentle. Because love at this age is not about patching holes in someone's heart. It's about walking beside them hand in hand as they carry what they've been through. It's not flashy, it's not dramatic, but it's real. And in many ways, it's deeper than anything we experienced when we were younger. Because now we know what loss feels like. We know how precious time is. And we know not to take the small things for granted. The laughter over morning coffee, the warmth of a hand resting on yours, the comfort of silence that doesn't need to be filled. Another truth that can catch people off guard, especially men, is that many women today don't need to be saved, rescued, or taken care of. But they do want to be respected, appreciated, and made to feel safe. That's not a contradiction. It's a balance. We can be strong and still want someone to hold the door for us. We can be independent and still feel comforted when someone offers to drive. We can handle our finances, fix our own faucet, and travel solo, and still love having someone say, "Let me take care of that for you." It's not about weakness. It's about sharing the weight of life. That's what companionship really is. Two people choosing every day to lighten each other's load in whatever ways they can. But for that to work, there's one more truth we have to face. A truth that often gets swept under the rug because it's uncomfortable. And that is, your old habits may no longer serve you. Maybe you've always been the one in control. Maybe you've built a wall so high that no one gets close. Maybe you've been replaying the same stories in your mind about what love should be or what a real man or real woman looks like. But if those habits are keeping you from connecting, maybe it's time to let some of them go. Dating after 60 isn't about proving you're still young. It's about honoring who you are now, while also staying open to who you could become with the right person by your side. Letting go of old habits doesn't mean changing your values. It means softening the edges that no longer protect you, and might even be pushing people away. It means saying, "I'm willing to try something new. I'm willing to grow even now." And that willingness, that's magnetic. That's attractive. That's rare. You see, the most beautiful thing about dating after 60 is that you get to do it with wisdom. You've lived through enough to know what matters and what doesn't. You've learned that attraction is about more than looks, that a deep laugh is more important than a perfect smile, that kindness is the most underrated trait in the world, and that peace, real, soul-deep peace, is more valuable than any romantic fantasy. You've also learned that time is precious. And that's why none of us have time for games, for pretending, or for relationships that drain rather than fill us. That's the gift of this age, clarity. And with clarity comes confidence. So if you're out there putting yourself back into the world, whether it's through a dating app, a walking group, a volunteer shift, or simply striking up a conversation at the grocery store, I want you to know this. You are worthy of love. Not the love you thought you needed in your 30s. Not the picture-perfect love of movies, but the real kind. The kind that sees you as you are and says, "Yes, you, just like this." And if you haven't found that yet, don't lose heart. Sometimes love doesn't arrive when we expect it. Sometimes it shows up late, quietly, and dressed in very practical shoes. But when it does come, if it comes, it often fits better than anything we tried to force in the past. So keep your heart open. Keep your humor intact. Keep your standards high and your walls low. Speak gently to yourself. Give grace to others. And remember that dating after 60 isn't a sign that something was missing in you. It's a celebration that you're still growing, still curious, still hopeful. You are not too old. You are not too late. You are exactly where you need to be, with stories to share, laughter to offer, and love still ahead of you. And if this message spoke to you, I'd love for you to share your thoughts in the comments. What's been your biggest surprise about dating later in life? What truth have you had to learn the hard way? If this video brought you comfort, encouragement, or just made you smile, please like it and subscribe to Strong Elderly Life for more conversations like this. We're building a community here, and your voice is part of it. Here's to living your best life with open arms, open minds, and open hearts. No matter your age, love still belongs to you.